Monsieur Lundi a largement dépassé.
The speaker went beyond the time allotted to him, but as he said, there will be questions, not only here, notably for all those who are not from the French-speaking areas. We are many, Kenya, Mozambique, and even the DRC. We speak French, but we have difficulties joining that francophone train. We are rather left with Belgium, which is doing a laudable job. So Mr. Lundi talked about the experts' role, or the role of the experts of PES, the role that they have to play in professional migration. I wouldn't belabor that because I can see that he had a well-framed syllabus which is going to offer us. Now we are going to take questions. I will start from the left. It was a point of order, was it? Is it a point of order? Please bear with us. I want to give honor to who honor is due. Kindly introduce yourself and tell us who your question is geared to. Thank you, Madam the Moderator. I am Mr. Andre Nyangai Ninga, a parliamentarian from Congo, Brazzaville. I have two questions. The very first one is addressed to the speaker from Sweden. He talked about young people. I would like to know how he manages youths who are facing difficulties, youths who are in the outskirts or in the suburbs, because generally we observe migration in the suburbs. So what is the mechanism you have in place to actually make those youths to be involved or to be absorbed? Because you develop so many programs, but I've not seen that category. Togo and Pôle Emploi presented very rich presentations. However, sometimes I wonder if what we're saying here is actually what obtains on the field in our countries, because generally I'm left wondering. First of all, the migrant has to be accepted, and that's the major work we have to do. And when I listened to all the speakers, I didn't actually see anything said on how migrants are received in our countries. Discrimination is at the order of the day, and we all know this. In some countries, we have very fragile PES which have no means. They are not even able to find jobs for Congolese. How much more the migrants? The employer can even tell you when you propose a foreigner or a migrant, they will ask you if there are no more Congolese who can pick the jobs. All the policies in our PES is to find jobs for nationals, except you will tell me the contrary. If we are not able to satisfy the local market, do we have the wherewithal to go efficiently towards the migrants' management, which I adopt here? And sometimes those migrants in our countries do not arrive the way you are saying here. There are some who are coming from war-torn countries, maybe from neighboring countries. And for somebody who arrives in such conditions, it will be difficult for them to have access to the PES. It's very difficult. Sometimes we do not accept the truth. Out of 10 cases of theft, armed robbery, rape, 8 or 9 are perpetrated by migrants. That's why sometimes in our countries we don't want to recruit them. The general, the Director General of Togo talked about market, or maybe women who are in Brazzaville working in markets. How do they get to that market? What link do they have with the PES, especially as they are coming for trading activities? And sometimes we see them already on the field when we are carrying out our prospects. And at that time, the PES it will be faced with so many difficulties. Shall we have special budget to go and fish out all the foreigners who are spread all over Congo? Somebody said that I supported some action. We have to strengthen the PES if we want to actually serve the migrants effectively. We're not rejecting them, but the PES cannot have the means to support them as they should. And now the migrants we are bringing to give jobs to, I think that is part of what we are talking about. I think, please, this is my last question. Please help us. In Congo, we started and ended halfway. It's that our fellow countrymen who are abroad are coming back. The head of state brought back so many medical doctors, he himself, in his plane from Paris to Brazil. Upon arrival, you see somebody who will see a cockroach, he will shout, "The devil, the devil." Somebody who sees a mosquito will say, "The devil, the devil." Why? Because in their countries where they are living, even if you don't have a good salary, at least living conditions are good. But where will they live when they go back to Congo? Their salaries are not good. And you see, the salaries that they are paid cannot make their families sustainable. We had a program called PARIC, but it didn't last because of the attitude of our own fellow countrymen. So, if some people have succeeded in this domain, I would pray they tell them how, they tell us how they did, because we have failed. I want to be truthful about this. Since we are discussing, yes, afterwards we will discuss. I think Mr. Lundi said that the PES will take a charge of migrations when they are going or as they are coming back. We are the technical advisors of our governments. We are all experiencing what you are denouncing. Now let me give the floor to another speaker. Thank you, madam. I want to have success stories. Thank you. Thank you, madam. Before making any comment, I would like to wish you a warm welcome to the Secretary of State with whom you are, who is honoring us with her presence in this Congress or conference as we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of WAPES. And the Malian counterpart was here, and he went back. So Congo and Mali are showing the commitment of their governments to this discussion at a very high level, and this to also express our observations and recommendations. So I would like to thank the two ministers who accepted to come to Cameroon. I would like to congratulate all the speakers. Their presentations were insightful. And now, on the heels of Honorable Nyanga Ilenga, I would like to say that we should say the truth. Today, the professional mobility program regarding migrants is not successful in all respects. We shouldn't lie to ourselves. It's true that some agreements have been signed, but between those signatures and making things concrete on the field, much is still to be done. We've faced so many hurdles. Now the question that I would like to ask all the speakers is this. Today, northern countries which receive the majority of the labor capacity living countries, how do their peers participate in the global targeted response? Or how do they provide some provisional answers before those migrants leave their countries? Because whether we like it or not, those migrants those migrants who are actually the critical mass of job seekers will always envisage to go. And the moderator here talked about the story of the ant and the sugar. That's the difficulty. The northern countries actually and the peers should help us, and they should help us with some provisional measures that can help us to create favorable conditions. We've said it over and over again. Nobody has all the wherewithal based on their budgets, whether we are talking about northern countries or our African countries. It's true that no country has enough resources, but at least countries from Europe have more resources than we do. So for all the pests where countries receive the majority of these workers who live illegally, and I think the European peers have to discuss with their counterparts from Africa and say, okay, these are the provisional measures that we are suggesting. And that's what we have to do. We've listened to so many presentations. Yesterday we celebrated the 20th anniversary. We saw all the workshops organized, and 2/3 of those workshops are based on migration. I think it is good for us to do some introspection, and maybe in the coming month we have to organize a meeting for the Bureau of WAPES to see what to do, because it was said that the director from Togo said that each time there is a workshop, he provides a program, and that's what we have to do. Each time there is a workshop, there should be a program, and we have to make sure that such programs should be joint programs, and we cannot just follow a one-way direction within a country, because the WAPES space should be homogeneous, and we are working in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. We let you talk because we have to give honor to whom honor is due. To the third question from our left, please. This is the last question, please. Let's go right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ibrahim Amadou. I'm a researcher at the University of Ngaoundéré in Cameroon. I have a question to Mr. Lundy. With your permission, I would like to come back to the support measures. Today, I am a PhD student and a candidate for migration. What are the support measures that what are the support measures put in place by the PES to support foreign students?
Merci pour la concision. Maintenant, à droite, vous avez le floor, comme on dit. Oui, Cameroun.
D'accord, on commence par moi, merci.
I had a question for each of the speakers, but I will try to summarize all of that. I think that Mr. Lundy, I'll meet him in private. Stefan. So I'll ask only one question addressed to my senior brother from Togo. The observatory. You said the observatory is ANPE that manages the observatory, that is in charge of producing information. In Togo, do you have private placement agencies? If so, how are you organized? How do you organize to collect information on the placement of these private agencies to produce at the national level information that are reliable. Let me give you the case of Cameroon, how it's done here. Here, we have kind of decentralized. The National Observatory for Employment was created but found in the ministry. So the ministry is this observatory gathers this information whether from the National Employment Fund or from private placement agencies. That's how that's what obtains in Cameroon. Thank you. Thank you, madam. I am Somo Valeri from Kradat. I have 3 questions. Very quickly. The first question is from Pôle Emploi. I would like to know, after the situation you presented a while ago of the many tools that are made available to migrants, I would like to know if these processes or tools concern migrants in regular situations. What does Pôle Emploi do for migrants who are regular? And in the same light, what is the quality of the jobs reserved for migrants compared to nationals? And for the Director General of Togo, I would like to know, we talked a while ago of the signing of agreements that he has negotiated abroad. I would like to know if that did not create a problem of conflict of competence, because I know that in Cameroon, if a Director General dares to sign an agreement that would commit his country, then I'm not sure he would be in that position for long. So, should you not see the bureaucratic measures to give directors of PSCs to have a certain mobility to be able to carry out actions that are efficient for the good of their structure? Thank you. Any other question? Thank you. Okay, that's okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Sambala CDB from Mali. I'd like to ask a question to the representative of the PS from Sweden. My question is to know how you manage the situation, that is the unemployment rate in relation to the number of unemployed people in Sweden, because we realize that Sweden has the lowest unemployment rate in Europe. Now for Togo, I realize that apart from ECOWAS and WAIMU, I don't know, you should explain to us why the experiments he's carrying out is not having any influence on ECOWAS and WAIMU and PSs and other countries, because I suppose that observatories created in ECOWAS countries and so on, the initiative was born from the ministers of labor meeting in Bamako. So another question has been asked already. I also want to ask, in the collaboration with SPS from the north, we benefit from support that helps to improve the issue of migration. Especially, we received 100 computers from WIDAD and 200 computers from Forem. These computers that were given help to reinforce our centers and our workshops in our regions for the management, not only for job seekers, and but for potential migrants. So these are cases that need to be valorized to bring a spirit of synergy in activities. Now, for France, the tools that are at your level, how can other PESs, the projects you manage around Mali, how can we benefit from your experience in Senegal and Mauritania? Thank you.
Merci. Vous aurez compris que nous n'aurons qu'un tour de questions et nous l'avons. On va demander aux différents.
So since we have only one round of questions, we would invite, please answer the questions in groups. So we'll start with Sweden. You have all your questions, answer all of them as briefly as possible.
As briefly as possible. Okay. Thank you for all the questions. The first one was from Congo-Brazzaville, how to deal with young people in suburbs and the outcasts, and the mechanism to absorb these people. And in Sweden, as soon as a resident permit is granted from the Swedish Migration Agency, they notify all the individuals of the Swedish Public Employment Service, and I think it's in the interest of the individual to contact us to take part of the programs, the interest of getting a job and integrating the Swedish labor market, and by being in contact with us, you also get all the benefits that follow. So I would say it's a rather small problem in Sweden, this issue. To address the question from the first question from Mali regarding the public employment service in a global perspective, I think it's compared to the first question, in the interest of Sweden to support all the global measurements or discussions or cooperations within whatever area it might be addressed. And for the final question, also from our colleague from Mali, I mentioned in my presentation about the mismatch. So that's why a lot of the programs that we have within the PES in Sweden try to help people to study more, and but that doesn't help the challenges we face in Sweden, because we think that migration is necessary, and just to keep it short, I would be happy to leave you with more information which I brought with me. So thank you.
Director of ANPE of Togo. Thank you. I'll answer on the Togolese concept or Congolese concept. It's very true that we work with government money, and it's difficult with the means we have to properly address the issue of external migrants. But we can sign agreements as we did with the HCR. So we work with the HCR and IOM so that our services should be open. They should give us the technical and financial means which we use to manage foreign migrants in our country. So you need to discuss with IOM, HCR and other UN organizations to create programs that you manage yourselves with their support. It's very possible. Now, for migrants who return from diaspora, there is a problem of integration. You don't just wake up one morning and put your stuff in a container and come back. 6 months abroad, you become a stranger. You need to construct your return project with people from PESC specialized in that, gradually, step by step. I imitated the Tunisian model last January, financed by ASOAS and ACMPD. We went to all institutions. There is a one-stop shop so that all Tunisians who return from Europe come, and in 1 hour, 2 hours, they clear their cars free of charge, have their number plates and so on. It's true that Europe is closer to them. It means, but there are specific services that are dedicated to the diaspora that can be built with government. Sometimes we say we don't have much money, but our brothers who went, how can we invest to attract them to come back? If you need them, you can go and see our Tunisian friends. Go spend 1 week with them. You see extraordinary things, and you will see what to copy. Regarding Mali president, a program and a workshop, a program, we cannot really mobilize resources because when we go back, they were overwhelmed by the issues, problems of the unemployed. When you ask them to think on reference themes, we give the French Cooperation Agency, they don't do it. So it's up to the GMs to set the pace, to have the capacity to mobilize funds. They be the ambassador of PSs. To my opinion, I think WAPES needs to improve its approach. If we gather all what we've done so far, we can have collective programs for our countries. Pay my ticket, let me take you to the World Bank. Take you to the French Development Agency. Let me take you to. Miss F. Marie said, ILO said they will do something. You go with her and discuss in Geneva in order to settle something that can be applied. The same thing for WAEMU, for the African Union. There is need for much talk, but you need to go and see what you can grab from there. From our colleague Jeremy, I have stopped being in theories of observatory in this or that. In 2011 and 12, I visited 4 countries. Another public employment service of Belgium. They have a public employment service and an efficient observatory, but they asked for European Union funding. They were poor, but they are still in Achilles because governments talk of independent observatory. They never give money to these independent observatories. Of course, we cannot work without money. I have the observatory in my body, in my stomach. I work as if I'll leave tomorrow. I conduct my investigations. I give them 100 million in the little 500 million I receive, and I mobilize money from the ADB, the ILO, the World Bank, and we move forward. That's it. The rest is politics. So with that, I don't even have any instruments to regulate. I produced the first consultancy on human resources in Togo. But we took money from the ILO, we produced a draft decree, and for 5 years now, the Director of Employment cannot take it to his minister, and I have to deal with that. There are charlatans in this business, there are crooks, but we have focal points with them. When we conduct investigations, surveys, we work with them. They say the law says they have to declare every information at ANPE, but they don't. When we send our questionnaires, we call them, we collect them, and we publish them, and we manage as we can. That is real politics. For our friend from Kradat, for agreements in my presentation. I said I will try to help the government to renew conventions. We sought conventions and rats ate them up. Rats and cockroaches. So we need to start all over again. Sasungeso and my president, they call each other uncle. So we'll discuss. There is a dangerous side to it. If you sign, you need to position yourself as a solution giver to your minister. Never appear to them as if you want to take their position. I appear on TV, but when campaign starts, I disappear. You need to be smart. Because your first opponent is a minister of employment or labor. If you are not kind with him, so I act like a mud fish. I will never appear to as someone who wants to take his position. At that point, they will help you. And the day they tell you, he tells you to sign, he must give you a paper authorizing you to sign, or even tell you verbally. So the Minister of Foreign Affairs, when I signed with Belgium, I gave him a copy. And we follow it up together. I told him I'll sign with Immigration Quebec. He did not refuse. When I went to see the Canadian ambassador in Accra, he gives me the director of Togo's. I went with the director of the Department of Togo. He's living abroad. So that's what I can give you as advice. And on that score, ECOWAS, WAEMU, and the rest. ECOWAS has a mechanism on migration. The national strategy in Togo on migration was formulated with the expertise and effort provided by ECOWAS. So, when you work, stretch your hand to others. If not, you will die fast. Thank you.
Monsieur le DG. Monsieur...
Thank you very much, Mr. Lundy. Please, very, very briefly. Very briefly. I usually don't speak briefly. I'll try. A number of questions were asked me. I may not answer all to gain time, but I will just go to the essential. There is a question that was asked by Congo to know how to succeed in return migration. There is no miracle solution. So, the only possible solution is to set up services to accompany job seekers. It is not rats and cockroaches that makes job seekers to run away, but it is a reception and the infrastructure they will find back home. I talked about Convention 97. There are recommendations as well that go with those conventions that explain how a migrant who returns to his country has a right to a number of things. We discussed in Tunisia with the Tunisian people how they manage to organize the return of their migrants. They don't pay custom duties, they don't pay anything to clear their property at the port. So we need to know such information to be able to offer them some guidance with key elements on their return so that they will be encouraged to say, okay, I'll leave my things, I'll come back to Congo and I can repatriate my personal property, because it is found in the convention. The annexes have to be signed. If they are not signed, some countries sign the convention but not the annex. There is Annex 1, 2, 3. You need to examine them, because that is also what enables us to provide job seekers with a means to come back home and work. And we in France, we have measures, we have OFI that helps to accompany returning migrants, and for that we need to sign a convention with OFI. It accompanies in a voluntary return, that is Congolese who are in France who want to come back. They can repatriate their property and come back and will benefit from the financial assistance from OFI. And you as Public Employment Service, you can position yourself with OFI to say we have a service provision for return mobility. We can accompany you within a framework of helping people to reintegrate themselves. You can work with the International Organization of Migration. But for that, you must have a service, or that you need to have a team that is competent to do that. Other settlement conditions, migrants from other countries may find it difficult to adapt when they return. Those who are afraid of rats and cockroaches will get used to with time, because rats don't need to come and say hi. It is not PSs that intervene at this level. When we send migrants from France to Sweden to Denmark, we have an international service mobility for Pôle Emploi, and we have so we take care of the charges, their departure charges, guaranteeing the transfer of allocations towards a country of migration. The other questions, I will answer them in private, please, for us to gain time. Our coffee break has been cancelled. If you're hungry, go discreetly, get coffee, because another team will come and will continue. Thank you.
Résumé, parce que vous avez tout entendu, tout compris. Nous allons passer à la deuxième phase des interventions.